Good evening, Lotion.
Last class, we introduced the learning and memory section, and now we have a short review by a video from Professor Solomon.
Bounty. You might immediately think the quicker picker-upper, or M&Ms, melt in your mouth, not in your hands. Congratulations, you've learned a brand association. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior caused by experience. It's an ongoing process. Our knowledge about the world constantly updates as we're exposed to new stimuli and as we receive ongoing feedback that allows us to modify our behavior when we find ourselves in similar situations at a later time. Much of what we learn occurs due to simple associations between a stimulus, that is, some event we experience, and the reaction we observe to it. In a lot of ways, this process is very similar to the way we train our pets. When a dog rolls over, we reward it with a treat. Similarly, we respond to brand names, scents, jingles, and other marketing stimuli because of the learned connections that we have formed over time. People also learn that the actions they take result in rewards and punishments. This feedback influences the way they will respond in similar situations in the future. Consumers who receive compliments on a product choice will be more likely to buy that brand again, whereas those who get food poisoning at a new restaurant are not likely to patronize that restaurant in the future. A lot of this kind of learning occurs when a stimulus that elicits a response is paired with another stimulus that initially does not elicit a response on its own. Over time, this second stimulus causes a similar response because we associate it with the first stimulus. The transfer of meaning from an unconditioned stimulus to a conditioned stimulus explains why made-up brand names such as Marlboro, Coca-Cola, or Exxon exert such powerful effects on consumers. What's more, we find that a new stimulus doesn't have to be identical to one we've experienced already. If it's fairly similar, it can evoke the same response. This tendency is central to branding and packaging decisions that try to capitalize on consumers' positive associations with an existing brand or company name by extending that association to other similar names. For example, if your customers like your primary brand, you may be able to create a product line extension. Thus, Dole, which we associate with fruit, introduced refrigerated juices and juice bars, whereas Sun-Maid went from raisins to raisin bread. It's all about rewarding customers for making good choices, much like giving your pet a treat. Marketers have many ways to reinforce consumers' behaviors, ranging from a simple thank you after a purchase to substantial rebates and follow-up phone calls. Although these basic learning mechanisms don't explain everything we come to know about products, they do account for much of what we know and how we act. So keep humming those jingles. If I say bounty,
Well, the core idea about the last section is learning and memory, and we mainly introduced the learning process, behavioral learning theories, and especially the classical conditioning and its application, stimulus generalization and stimulus discrimination. And another learning theory of behavioral learning theory is instrumental conditioning. Instrumental conditioning, aka operant conditioning. It's all about reinforcement and punishment. And the application for instrumental conditioning, reinforcement schedules, recursive marketing, and so on. And the other way of learning theory is cognitive learning theory. Cognitive. And I addressed the observation in the learning process, the role of observation. For memory, we should have some idea about the memory system and how to store information, how to retrieve information in memory, and especially we mentioned the nostalgia marketing. And we shared some further readings in our WeChat group. And I hope that you guys can read through these selected readings because these are very classic. For example, and now let's have a look at this article. Passing the torch, intergenerational influence. As the source of a brand equity. Published on Journal of Marketing. The concept of brand equity has proved to be an important source of strategic insights for marketers. However, one potentially valuable source of brand equity, the operation of intergenerational influences, has generally been overlooked in the marketing literature. This article reports the findings of two studies that show intergenerational impacts on brand equity to be persistent and powerful across an array of consumer packaged goods. As a strategic challenge, these effects seem to apply strongly for some brands, but not for others, so they are selective. In study 1, they also used the parallel surveys of a mother-daughter dads to isolate and qualify intergenerational impacts, and the surveys reveal a differential range of effects at both the product category and the brand level. In study 2, the authors used interpretivist methods to delve more deeply into these effects. The forms they take, the way they have developed, and the factors that sustain or disrupt them. Based on these findings, the authors identify implications for managers and future needs. Overall, intergenerational influences are a real marketplace phenomenon and a factor that merits much closer attention from marketing strategists who are interested in brand equity issues. Let's see how the authors did. The intergenerational influence. The linkage of intergenerational influences and brand equity is examined. What exactly are intergenerational influences? How do they come about and how do they operate? Using socialization theory. Defined as the process through which people develop specific patterns of social behavior, or the process by which people learn the social rules and behaviors they need to participate effectively in society. Helps the society function by reinforcing particular beliefs, traditions, and values. Also helps people develop their personal identities and assume new rules as they move through their life cycles. Although it is a long life process, childhood and adolescence are particularly crucial times. During childhood, the socialization process focuses not only on the present, but also on rules and behaviors that will be needed in the future. The family is the first and typically the most powerful socialization agent. Parents and other family members serve as channels of information, source of social pressure, and support for one another. As the family develops, it creates a distinct lifestyle, patterns of decision-making, and a style of interacting. Children have continuous opportunities to learn and eventually to internalize the beliefs, attitudes, and values they have observed, accepting this as the norm. Let's seek findings on intergenerational influences. Intergenerational research on political and social behavior shows that many forms of influence are transmitted from parents to their children, including political affiliation, religious values, achievement orientation, and gender and racial attitudes. Levels of parent-child consensus vary considerably, being highest within religious and political arenas, lowest for lifestyles, and generally substantial for topics that are concrete, visible, and salient. Over time, effects decline. The greatest erosion occurs during first few years after the young adult leaves home, and then there is a leveling off by the late 20s or early 30s. Thus, international generation impacts can endure well into adulthood. Reciprocal socialization. Relatively little direct research attention has been given to intergenerationally influencing consumer research, though its presence is recognized in early work on family decision-making and the family life cycle. Relevant research is also present in the literature on consumer socialization, defined as the process by which young people acquire skills, knowledge, and attitudes relevant to their functioning in the marketplace. Studied the role of family, peers, and mass media in teaching children about consumption, the impact of parenting style, and the way parents and children interact in making household purchase decisions. In the early 1970s, intergenerational research has introduced into the study of consumer behavior. Writers have supported the proposition that these effects are significant, interesting, and potentially important in the marketplace. The core empirical research base consists of only some 10 articles, and several of these appear in conference proceedings. An interesting and wide set of topics has been studied. The effects of intergenerational research has reached impressive magnitude. Studies of auto insurance, observed that 62 of men in their 20s reported that their insurance company had also supplied coverage to their fathers. And even at age 50, almost 20% met this criterion. Longitudinal study finds that financial planning skill levels are transmitted across 3 generations, particularly among families that are poor financial managers. College students and their parents are dimensions of innovativeness, opinion leadership, and loyalty partners. Shared marketplace beliefs and choice rules, and noted greater preference, similarity associated with products are more visible to children in the home. But we should notice that this paper published in 2002, almost 20 years before, more than 20 years before. And perceived purchase similarities and observed strong impacts for convenience. Reference group effects points out that a family's impact will differ from that of peers, depending on whether a product is publicly or privately consumed. This is a moderator of these effects, reference group effects. Linkages between family members on skepticism toward advertising. Theory suggests that family influences constitute a powerful socialization agent in children's lives, and previous study provide good reason to believe that intergenerational effects are at work. Current knowledge about consumer intergenerational influence is grounded in a relatively small research base. This is the research's basic findings on intergenerational influences. Although this was published in 2002, 20 years before, but this section illustrates well for us. It illustrates a good method or good way to write the previous studies, summary on previous studies on one topic. Okay, after introduced the previous studies on intergenerational influence, then it goes to talk about the ties to brand equity, the relationship between intergenerational influence and brand equity, which is another core concept. Customer-based brand equity framework identifies a brand's meaning as the key to creating equity. Consider the number of opportunities family members have, year after year, to jointly consume, shop for, and comment on favorite brands, thereby influencing children's brand associations. The brand equity framework also stresses that meaningful differences among brands derive from brand associations that are unique, favorable, and strong. Theoretically, family interactions are likely to produce high levels on these family exact properties. Associations that tie loved ones to the brand bring a unique element. Intergenerational influences are likely strongest for brands that have provided satisfaction for the household over time. Strong associations result from both personal relevance and consistent information over time. When a child's attitude about a brand, consumption occasion, or store is formed within the context of daily family life, it can exhibit meaningful characteristics and will sustain it across time. Firms enjoy a number of brand equity benefits related to growth and profits that ensure from increased customer loyalty levels. The possibility of extending loyalties from one generation to the next is an added benefit. New cohorts of potentially brand loyal consumers go out on their own, continuing to use brands they have been socialized to use at home. So, intergenerational influences appear to offer considerable potential for marketers. This potential likely differs by substantive domain. Intergenerational is partially a function of a specific product category or marketplace characteristics. Stronger IG impacts for private goods than for those consumed in public. Private than for consumed in public. Stronger IG preference effects for convenience goods than for shopping goods. Stronger IG impacts associated with in-home visibility. These studies show that product category features can affect IG levels. However, none of these studies report findings for individual product categories. No study to date has examined IG influences for individual brands. This study examined IG influences in a domain in which issues of brand equity are extremely important. That is consumer packaged goods. In a highly competitive setting, frequent new product introductions and substantial promotional equity inexpensive and frequently purchased. Having a relatively long life cycle, being used by households with children, providing satisfaction over time. To study. In study 1, use the survey method to isolate, quantify, and test for IG effects for 24 consumer packaged goods categories, and then for individual brands in each category. In study 2, turn to interpretive methods into the nature of IG effects. Of different aspects of IG phenomenon. Let's see study. Okay. Hypothesis. Study 1. Study 1. Purpose. Specific purpose for study 1. Determine whether and how IG influences are related to brand equity in the packaged goods marketplace. All broad expectations. 1. Intergenerational impacts at work across the spectrum of consumer behavior. Impacts range from brand effects to product category effects to store preferences, marketplace orientations, and border lifestyles. Identifying the partial out some broader impacts. That means IG impacts on product nuance. Expectation 2. Intergenerational impacts can be measured at different stages of the consumer decision process. Hierarchy effects provides a useful framework for assessing levels of IG impacts. focused on consumers' awareness, consideration sets, and brand preferences. Expectation 3. Intergenerational influences exist within a tumultuous, differentiated marketplace. Various forces affect levels of IG impact. Differences in product susceptibility to the formation of IG influences and marketplace forces operating to either sustain or disrupt IG impacts in young adulthood. Whether observed IG levels are affected by several marketplace factors. Not all brands within a product categories are equally likely to benefit from IG influences. Certain brands may receive notably high level of loyalty and support. Isolate such differences in IG effects. This is the procedure of Study 1. Conducted parallel surveys of 102 mothers and 102 daughters. Each mother-daughter pair constituting dared for analysis. Decision to focus on mother and daughters are based on research indicating that adolescents and mothers influence one another's purchases more than adolescents and fathers do. And maternal influence is particularly strong for household products. Women tend to exhibit stronger brand involvements than men. Recruited the daughters from an introductory marketing course at a large Southeast public university with the proviso that they must currently live off campus and shop for groceries. 2 similar questionnaires, one for each member. Each participant was asked to indicate whether she used each of the 24 product categories to list the brand she most preferred by free recall, as well as additional brands she seriously considers. Ask the participant to report independently on their partner's product usage and brand performance in each product category. Completed their questionnaire and then provided their mother's names and addresses for the mailing of a parallel survey and a cover letter explained the project. Related to the requirement, they were not to communicate about the survey's responses until all forms were returned, and all participants agreed. All 102 parent questionnaires were returned within 3 weeks of mailing, indicated a high degree of parental interest and involvement. See? IG effects for selected brands. And with potential
Teacher, did you mute yourself?
Hello?
Yes, now we can hear you, teacher.
Okay, thank you. At least 30 non-users in a product category. Results significant on non-use of 6 categories, not significant in 3 others. Measured at different stages. Reported awareness, choice set, preference, supportive. Responses from mothers and daughters on these measures. All 24 products qualify. Daughter aware, 60. Significant, yes. Variety of forces affects levels. Is the mother-daughter brand preference agreement score affected by 4 particular characteristics with a dominant brand? It's a large number of competing brands with generation usage difference, a significant number of non-users. Only this is not significant. Let's see why they conduct a study 2 and how. The results of study 1 highlight the many levels of at which IG effects are manifested, the measurement challenges that emerge, and the importance of considerations involving the characteristics of particular segments, categories, and brands. At a pragmatic level, IG brand equity is a valuable asset. Further understanding of its sources, nature, and operation is warranted. So they conduct a study 2, exploring the nature of IG influences. The survey method is limited in providing an explanation how IG influences work. They paired the survey method with an interpretive research method and provided a forum for daughters to express their views on the role of IG influences in their daily lives. Research design. 25 young adult women participated in the first set of depth interviews. These interviews were conducted over the course of several days, first at home, then in the store, and then at home as a part of a pantry audit. This interview structure enabled us to directly examine brand purchases as well as preferences. Informants were students lived in off-campus, shopped for groceries. Independent shoppers for as little as 2 months and others for purposefully selected, interviewed for 3 to 4 hours based on a topical life history approach. First interview gathered information about shopping histories, personal shopping styles, brand preferences, and family histories. On a different day, a research team member accompanied the information on a grocery shopping trip, during which informants were encouraged to think out loud. Here, observe the purchases as they were made, followed with discussions, choice considerations, and information on in-store factors in purchasing decision. The third interview involved returning home, putting groceries away, continuing discussion. Tell the story behind the brands. Life history information gathered during this closing session. This is the procedure. Analysis. We audio recorded and then transcribed all interviews. Verbatim transcripts serve as the primary data from which conceptual categories and the relations were identified. Extensive structured process we used to identify and preserve essential insights following the discovery-oriented aims and procedures of a grounded theory. This is the method that for exploratory research, qualitative research method, grounded theory. Independently coded each interview. Emergent categories were compared and discussed in detail for the first 6 interviews. These initial categories served as a structural basis for coding the remaining interviews, and we incorporated enrichments as necessitated by the data. Independently coded all remaining interviews and then compared them on a line-by-line basis. When discrepancies were filled, and we resolved them through discussion, sorted, compiled, and assessed the data relevant to each emerging category for conceptual fit. and the results. How they come to develop in our informant's lives, how they operate today. Organize this into an extensive framework shown in Figure 2. 3 major sectors: marketplace, manifestations, because a variety of ways and IG influences are at work in consumer lives. The factors in information sector provides observations into how IG influences develop. Endurance in adulthood delves into forces that affect IG influences after the child leaves the family home. This figure. Understanding IG influences in the marketplace. Dimensions. Brand preference, consideration set, and product use or non-use. IG as repetitive. Low involvement. IG as emotional bond. Other IG insights. IG as a brand portfolio. Competitive barrier or opportunity. Desired brand tier. New product propensity. For preference for product forms. A limiting brand force. As reserve influence flow. Beyond the brand. For example, packaging, entire assortment. Adoption of lifestyle dimensions ties to personal identity. Factors in formation within the household. Substantive formation governed by children's learning processes. Shopping participation plays a huge role. Observational learning also contributes. Shopping lists, rules, and limits as control devices. Children's influence attempts as participant learning. Coherence helps. IG development across time. This is a continuous process across the years. Are age-specific. Preference stability. Structural and lifestyle changes. Shifts. Induce in adulthood. Sources with disruptive potential. New influencers. Spouse, roommate, and peers. New lives bring shifting lifestyle demands. Alerted marketplace experience. Sustaining forces. Support repetitive purchase. Performance, familiarity, inertia, low involvement. Risk aversion. Regularity as a reinforcer. Seasonal rituals. Maintenance of a self-identity. Ethnic identity. Selective Select lifestyles shape choice options. Safe harbor. Influence attempts on others. Loosen constraints. Allow IG enactment. Reverse. Reverse IG. Bring parents back. Parents as IG sustainers. Continued loyalty. Proximity. Family shopping outings as reinforcers. Parents as product suppliers. Coupons. So these are the results based on the interviews. This is the detailed results, discussions. Okay, at last, integrating the studies. Conclusions and implications. Managerial implications overall recommendation. IG audits for product categories and brands. As we can see, IG effects are clearly selective by category and by brand. A limited sample provides no direct basis. Or customize the IG audit of the marketplace and offers guidance for this undertaking. Are IG effects at work in the category? If so, which brands are benefiting from the influence and which are not? The approach in study 2 be used to shed more light on the nature of IG within a specific category. How it is perceived by young adults consumers, how it is sustained or disrupted. Marketing team can gear its strategy toward the twin goals. Betting key IG disruptors and supporting IG sustaining forces. For product decisions, extending a brand's life cycle, fewer drivers at work, desires for both future and past. For example, new technology, new benefits, new delivery modes, and past familiarity, safety, warmth. Brand extensions. These are the implications for product decisions. For place-related, mouse. And for promotion decisions, family legends for younger members, aspirational appeals for up-tier brands. And then introducing implications for future theoretical and research considerations. I want to talk more about the future researches now. If you are interested in the future research directions, you can read through after class. So reading this research paper, we can have an idea about the idea of conducting a consumer behavior research on a selected topic. So this is a research on intergenerational influences. The role of intergenerational influences on brand equity. And through 2 studies, applying different methods. Study 1 use parallel surveys. Study 2 use interpretivist methods, especially grounded theory, to find more or deep insights for the results of the surveys. And the basic structure of this kind of research paper, including the introduction, a background, theoretical background, or practical background, especially the theory routines, rooted theories, and previous studies, and the linkage between the key factors or variables talked in this study. And then develop the research design, develop the expectations or hypotheses. For each study, first should give an overview to show the purpose, specific purpose, and then methodology, procedure, and participants, right? At last, not at last, and then the results. Report the results, especially in a table or using a figure. And then explanations of the results, the main findings, and together with some discussions based on previous studies. And then a short summary of this first study, and elicit the logic to conduct the following studies. This is the next study. Although the purpose, the research design, the procedure, analysis results, and the summary, and at last integrating the studies to draw conclusions and develop managerial implications, theoretical implications, theoretical contributions, and at last points out the limits and the further directions. And then attach the references list. Okay, so at the first of today's class, I just show you research paper on the section of learning, and throughout the reading, we can find the details of conducting the research. And then I summarized the structure of such academic research paper. So as you can see, for consumer behavior research, you can just find a very micro point, and then you if this point can motivate you guys to find more behind the for example the phenomenon or the question, then you should search for more theoretical background and related previous studies, and conduct a literature review to grasp the situation, the current situation of the research on this topic, and find the research gaps. Then select a direction to point out your research idea, and then based on the previous studies and theories, develop your research hypothesis, and then form your research design. At the stage of research design, you can go back to the previous studies to find more details about the procedures and more research details. For example, the measurement scales for variables, for dependent variables, the manipulations for independent variables, and so on, and find the appropriate research method, to realize, to finish this research. And then you can collect data. After you collect the data you needed to answer the questions, you should know the data analysis method find the appropriate data analysis method to do the data analysis and to interpret the analysis, the result. So this is a whole set of conduct research. And most important is to read previous studies, to search for related previous studies, read more academic researches, more academic papers. Then you can a quick idea of how to conduct your own research. This is the very basic step, for especially you guys. The first year, the beginning of graduate student. So these are my suggestions. Okay, now let's have a short break for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Let's continue our class. And now I have another research paper published on Science, the top journal Science. And this is a short paper. Spending money on others promotes happiness. I will share this paper to our Vision group, and I hope all of you guys read through this paper and to feel about the research paper published on Science, and to try to figure out the logic of this paper, the logic between studies, between the series of studies in this research. Okay. Now let's move to the new section. Motivation and memory. Another important internal influences on consumer behavior. Motivation and affect. The core idea of this section includes the following points. First one, products can satisfy a range of consumer needs. Consumers experience different kinds of motivational conflicts that can impact their purchase decisions. When you're confronted with motivational conflicts, how can you deal with them? Consumers experience a range of affective responses to products and marketing messages. And the way we evaluate and choose a product depends on our degree of involvement with the product, the marketing message, or the purchase situation. What is involvement? So of all the motivation process, what is motivation? This is the process that lead people to behave as they do. It occurs when a need arises that a consumer wishes to satisfy. There are two main kinds of needs: utilitarian need and hedonic need. Utilitarian need provides a functional or practical benefit. Hedonic need is an experiential need involving emotional responses or fantasies. And the goal of the consumption is to satisfy the needs, the asset that is desired by the consumer. Motivation process. Drive. The degree of arousal present due to a discrepancy between the consumer's present state and some ideal state. Then it will arouse consumers to find solutions to reach the ideal state from the current state. Want. And is a manifestation of a need created by personal and cultural factors. Motivation can be described in terms of a strength and a direction. For marketers, they can use advertisements to reinforce desired states. For example, this ad for exercise shows me a desired state. And suggest a solution to attain it. This could be your body, and the solar flex could be the way. So they through reinforce desired states, arouse consumers' needs to consume their goods. Consumers, they have biological needs and learned needs. Biological needs are instinct. Biological needs produce unpleasant states of arousal. For example, if you are hungry, you must want to have some food. Then we are motivated to reduce tension caused by this arousal. And there will be a balanced state of arousal. This is a drive theory. Drawn on expectancy theory, behavior is pulled by expectations of achieving desirable outcomes, usually positive incentives, rather than push them within. Pulled by expectations of achieving desirable outcomes. It is the core idea of expectancy theory. Direction, motivational direction. First of all, we should make clear the difference between needs versus and wants. Want is the particular form of consumption used to satisfy a need. A want, like fast food, is a specific way to satisfy a need like hunger. Types of needs. Biogenic needs and psychogenic needs. Biogenic needs are necessary, are the needs necessary to maintain life. Psychogenic needs are culture-related needs. For example, need for status, for power, affiliation, and so on. Utilitarian needs. Consumers will emphasize the objective, tangible aspects of products, while hedonic needs are those subjective, experiential needs, like excitement, self-confidence, and so on. Many times, consumer will confront different types of motivational conflicts. For example, when you are hungry, you have two desirable alternatives, hamburger or hot dogs. Which one will you select?
Hamburger.
And if you want to have ice cream, then you are afraid of your weight will increase. But this is the result you want to avoid. Or the other way, if you are ill, got sick, you have better choice with two undesirable alternatives: to go to the hospital or to have some medicine. So these show the three types of motivational conflicts. For consumers, they will approach positive goal and avoid negative goal. The first type of motivational conflict is approach. That means a person must choose between two desirable alternatives. But if you choose one, you should give up another. Then you will confront with a state of tension. Which called cognitive dissonance. And then you should find ways to reduce cognitive dissonance, motivated to reduce this tension between beliefs or behaviors. The second type of motivational conflict is approach avoidance conflict, which exists when consumers desire a goal but wish to avoid it at the same time. So for marketers, they should persuade consumers to approach the goal while or just emphasize the desirable goal. And the third type of motivational conflict, avoidance. Consumers face a choice between two undesirable alternatives. After trade-off, consumers should select one choice with lower risk or cost. Here illustrates showing the specific needs and purchase behavior. For example, need for achievement. Consumers will value personal accomplishment more, place a premium on products that signify success. For example, luxury brands, technology products. Need for affiliation. Consumers want to be with other people, so marketers should focus on products that are used in groups. For example, alcoholic beverages, sports bars, and so on. Need for power. Consumer will want to control one's environment, so they will focus on products and allow them to have mastery over surroundings. For example, muscle cars, loud boom boxes. Need for uniqueness. Consumers assert their individual identity. They will enjoy products and focus on their unique character. For example, the perfumes, clothing, and so on. You can find which kind of needs are you do you have more? You weigh which kind of needs more? Achievement, affiliation, power, uniqueness. And then you can think about your purchased products. which product satisfy the need for achievement or affiliation or power or uniqueness. Satisfy which kind of a specific need. Here is the levels of needs in the Maslow hierarchy. From the lower level needs, physiological, to upper level needs, safety, belongingness, ego, self-actualization. For example, McDonald's promises its coffee will satisfy a physiological need to wake up. Then we move to the section of affect. Affect is driven to heighten positive information or mood and to reduce negative feelings. Emotional reactions, in turn, will positively or negatively reinforce the consumer themselves. There are 3 types of affective responses: evaluations, moods, and emotions. Evaluations are balanced reactions, positive or negative, balanced reactions to events and objects, not accompanied by a high level of psychological arousal. Moods are usually temporary positive or negative affective states, accompanied by moderate levels of arousal. Emotions, such as happiness, anger, fear, guilt, and so on, tend to be more intense, often relate to a specific triggering event. When our judgments tend to be shaped by our moods, consumers judge the same products more positively when they are in a positive mood as opposed to negative. So this is called mood congruency. Positive affect influence, for example, happiness. As this advertisement showing Coca-Cola Open Happiness campaign. Here you can see a Coca-Cola machine. Gives you a can of a Coke each time you hug it. So this is a campaign from Coca-Cola Happiness, Open Happiness. Negative affect. For example, disgust, envy, guilt, embarrassment, and so on. And for different kind of affects, we recommended corresponding readings. For example, how happiness affects choice. The EV premium in product evaluation. Guilt appeals. The publicly self-conscious consumer prepared to be embarrassed. I just list out some of the research papers. Okay. And after class, we can read them through. And you can think about the influence of a positive or negative effect on consumers' purchase decision. One more point I should emphasize is the social media. How social media tap into our emotions. There is a popular method called opinion mining, often using sentiment analysis. And you can find more on research papers or newspaper or some news based on the sentiment analysis through social media. And now I will introduce a very important concept: involvement. Consumer involvement. Involvement reflects our level of motivation to process information. Involvement is the perceived relevance of an object based on their needs, values, and interests. And here you can see the mechanism of involvement on consumer behavior. The antecedents of involvement, including person, factors, needs, importance, interest, values, and object or stimulus, or situational factors. For example, differentiation of alternatives, source of communication, content of communication, or purchase on other occasion. Involvement, we have three types of involvement. Involved with advertisements, involved with product, involved with purchase decisions. And the possible results of involvement, including elicitation of a counter argument to ads, effective of an ad to induce purchase, relative importance of the product class, perceived differences in product attributes, preference for a particular brand, influence of price on brand choice, amount of information search, time spent deliberating alternatives, type of decisions rule used in choice. And based on this idea, we can see we get attached to products. Levels of involvement, from inertia to passion. Inertia, consumption at the low end of involvement, usually lack of motivation, just a flow state. For passion, their cult products command fierce consumer loyalty, devotion, and even worship by consumers who are highly involved. For example, the Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Types of involvement. Product involvement. That is consumers' level of interest in a product. Many sales promotions attempt to increase product involvement, especially, for example, using mass customization to enhance product involvement. Message response involvement. Consumers' interest in processing marketing communications. For marketers, they will find novel ways to increase consumers' involvement. Purchase situation involvement. For example, wedding gift. If you buy a wedding gift for boss or for cousin you don't like, you are of a different purchase situation involvement level. And for boss, you may want to purchase expensive wares to show that you want to impress boss. But for cousin you don't like, you just buy inexpensive wares to show you are indifferent. And scholars developed a method to measure involvement. Here is the involvement scale using a thematic difference method. To me, object to be judged. For example, the electric vehicle is important or unimportant, boring or interesting, relevant or irrelevant, exciting, unexciting, means nothing, means a lot, appealing, unappealing, fascinating, modern, worthless, valuable, involving, uninvolving, not needed, needed. And as you can see, there are opposite item, worthless, valuable, and not needed, needed. All the other are positive on the left side and negative on the right side, except worth number 8 and number 10. You can find the research paper using this measurement scale to measure involvement. If you want to measure consumer involvement, you can use this measurement scale. And the amount of consumer involvement depends on personal interest, risk importance, probability of bad purchase, pleasure value, sign value, or self-concept relevance. If consumers involve a lot, they will voice their opinions. So there is consumer-generated content. Every day, people voice their opinions about products, brands, and companies on blogs, podcasts, and social networking sites. And there are big data of consumer-generated content. And as marketer or researchers, we can go to the website, to go to the social media platform, or brand community, or shopping website to find this consumer-generated content and make some opinion mining to find the value insights of consumers. Here are some strategies to increase involvement. Appeal to hedonistic needs. use novel stimuli, prominent stimuli in commercials, include celebrity endorsers, build consumer bonds via ongoing consumer relationships. Okay, so these are the main content today, addressing motivation effect. And we emphasize the motivation, the strength and the direction, and the motivational conflicts, type of motivational conflict, and how to deal with them. And then we mentioned the effect, different affective responses, evaluations, moods, and emotions. And then we introduced the effect of positive or negative effect on consumers' decision. And then we introduced concept involvement. We should know the type of involvement, the factors influencing involvement level, and the types of involvement, and the strategies to increase consumers' involvement level. Okay, and at last, we will share some of these readings, and I hope that you guys can conduct weekly response on this topic, especially on the positive or negative effect on consumers' purchase decision. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, any questions?
Oh, I think no questions.
I want to give you some feedback on last class. Submissions. Until now, I received 7 submissions. They're from Chen Xiuting, Nathan, Chen Zilong, Liu Xinchen, Na Ze, Wang Cong.
Wait, did you see my weekly response? I just sent it you in Thursday, last Thursday. But yeah,
I didn't find it.
I sent it to your email.
Sent to my email.
Yeah, I sent it.
I didn't receive yours. as you can see here. Which is yours? No. Hello, Beya, can you see? I didn't receive yours. You can send again, okay? Oh, this one. No, it's the last week submission pyramid of consumer behavior. This one. Oh, I received it. Hello, Beya. Is this?
This one. Sorry, I turned off my microphone. Sorry.
This one, right?
Yeah, this one. Cognitive marketing.
Okay, I received it. I received the ad of you guys.
She.
Yes.
Did you receive mine? I divided for free. Yes, not. Yes, it's. No. I sent again. No.
No.
I sent for you for here, Nazim Bilkenova.
This one?
Yes.
Oh.
I sent the for you. I divided.
Okay. I didn't notice it. At all? Okay, that's all for today. Thank you. See you next time.
Okay, see you. Thank you.